That's the better one. Even better again. There is nothing more annoying than hitting a lovely drive and not having the camera on. Well, good morning everybody. Welcome to yet another Sunday morning show where this week I want to talk a little bit about the YIPS.
Oh my word, what's happened there?
Does it go? I'm going to go into a little bit of detail about my experience with the YIPS, but I'd like to know down there in the comments, are you somebody that has suffered with the YIPS? People think it's just in putting. It's not. So I'd like to hear down there where you feel you got the YIPS, whether it's in your chipping, whether it's in your putting, whether it's in your iron play, whether it's in your drive, whatever it is. Let's get you involved in this Sunday morning show. Come on. There's the drive with the camera on. There's the drive without the camera on. Still off the fairway, to be fair. Oh, 205. Unfortunately, I took my 4-iron out because I brought half a set out. I didn't want to carry a full set, so it's a hard 5. Gotta go. Gotta go. Yeah, it was a 4. Still going forward with this microphone on the side of the hat. I know it looks a bit funny, but you know, at least the audio's all right. So the YIPS for me came for the first time ever in America. I just started out at college in the States. I may have told you this story already, but I just started college out in the States, got into playing for the team, and the greens were quite quick, but they were really grainy. And it kind of got me into a position where I was kind of doubting some of the putts that I was hitting. So I was then focusing so much on the outcome that the knock-on effect of that was that I was thinking so negatively of what was going to happen to the ball if I got the line wrong. You know, could it go past the hole and could it then wander off and leave me 4 or 5 foot back up the hill? All these little things that kind of got into my brain. And then before you know it, you're starting to feel a bit anxious over pretty much every putt that you step up to. Especially when you putt up into grain and you've got a pretty flat putt, and if you've got up into grain, sometimes you can see it kind of move with the grain. So that was kind of where it started for me, and I got myself into such a pickle out on the golf course playing in tournaments that, you know, I was just 3-putting everywhere, couldn't get the ball in the hole. It was such a shock to the system that things had to change. Now, when I first got to the States, I actually ordered 2 clubs, a Hawkeye driver, because I wanted to get out there a little bit further because the golf courses were longer. But I also ordered my first ever Scotty Cameron Newport 2. It was the silver platinum version. I loved it, fell in love with it straight away. But that was the putter that really kind of got me started. I worked really closely with a really good friend of mine at college out there, a lad called Richard, and he's been on one of the vlogs. And he was very much into the old Bob Rotella stuff, and how what was happening is I'd created like this panic neuro pathway in my brain that made me kind of, as soon as I got over a putt, it would trigger that neuro pathway, and then I would get into kind of a panic stage. There was a number of ways that I tried to break it, and I did break it to a point. Change of putter, so I went back to an old Odyssey 2-ball putter, which definitely helped because it was just a change in I wasn't looking at the same putter. And then I started messing about with grips, and I went from your kind of traditional kind of grip, which is kind of like where I'd have my left hand on top, just like a normal grip, I suppose. And then my right hand would come underneath, and then my forefinger would go down the fingers of it. Very, very similar to how kind of Tiger would putt, I suppose, and many putters, good putters in the past would putt. And I decided to move it to crosshand. I was left-handed in a lot of other sports, and I just focused on the left hand being the sort of dominant hand during the putting action, but definitely moving from that traditional kind of grip to then a reverse kind of, and then interlocking the fingers, just broke that kind of neuro pathway for me and enabled me to start putting just that little bit better. And for those of you that have watched this channel for many years, you'll know that my left below right grip has not changed since then. I've kept it ever since that point over in the States. I've kept with it, and things did, luckily for me, start to change. So another area of where you can catch the yips for lots of players, and somebody that jumps out to me that did struggle with this is a chap called Alex Evans, who hopefully you won't mind me talking to you about this, but when he came over to college with me in the States, he started suffering with the chipping yips and almost like pitching yips.
I'm sorted here, yeah.
I'll pick up then. I'll just pick up.
But we're going to film this.
Well, the difficulty is getting to the bottom of the ball just because it's just
How are you going to do
so
that?
tight. I'm going to go toe down.
Literally is as tight.
Toe down.
Toe down to take off the bounce.
Take off the bounce, yeah.
Yeah.
It's just 1 bounce there.
Yeah, just on that, yeah.
That
Just
bit
on
there,
that.
Just one little bit of check. Little bit of check just there.
That's lovely. That is struck as good as it could. Sit. I had no chance to die.
No.
He was so anxious over these tight lies around the greens and then tight fairways, and then even that grain that I talked about, Bermuda grass that you get in the fairways and around the greens over in Florida. He really started to struggle with them, sort of like, you know, he started, I don't think he started putting from everywhere, but he certainly was duffing chips and having to hit almost like full lob shots to try and get away from that sensation of getting the yips with his chipping. And that is an area that I feel gets a little bit overlooked for lots of players. There's some players out there that almost don't want to talk about the fact they got the yips. But certainly the chipping, if you're feeling a little bit anxious over some chip shots around the greens, chipping over bunkers, things like that, that's the sort of starting point of getting the yips within your short game. 105 playing 101. Ooh, that's into wind. Just a little knockdown wedge. And here we have it, chip shot, and this would be a prime example of where possibly Alex might be kind of struggling from. And I have to admit, this kind of crept into my game a little bit, and I'm only talking a little bit, but it certainly I used to question my pitching and chipping action a little bit. But here was an area where I would struggle, especially when it was wet conditions, so quite soggy underneath, and some of you would probably struggle with maybe when it gets tight conditions, like on links golf courses. And the answer for me for this was a change to the sole of my wedge. Massively important when it comes to when you're selecting wedges, to get something with maybe just a little bit more bounce on it. If you're somebody that struggles with your chipping or struggles with your pitching and you feel like you're maybe thinning it or digging that leading edge in too much or catching it heavy, I would suggest looking at a wedge that has a lot more bounce on it. I went to something with a full bounce, a full grind. For this particular one, I got a 56-degree sand wedge with F grind 14 bounce. This is maxing out with the bounce. Now, as a kid, you might have been playing in the county setup and people would look at your wedge and go, oh, why have you got a problem? You got too much bounce? And actually, yes, I have got a bit of a problem, and I do need a little bit of bounce to help me with shots like this in tough conditions. Just for this video, I'm just going to go back to my old putting stroke, or my old putting grip. Right below left finger down the grip. How am I feeling? Not overly comfortable. Short. See? Only takes a small thing, and the small thing is the fact that you guys are watching me on a short putt like that. Gets in the brain and gets you thinking. Get back there. Skip forward. Well, I hope you've enjoyed this week on the channel. Myself and Bernie over at Deauville, which was a fun trip. Myself and Bernie getting a few holes filmed because it was a little bit breezy, and I'm actually filming this before a big storm comes in over the UK as well. So we're just trying to get this done quickly before it hits. But what inspired me about doing this video was I had a message from last week's Sunday morning show, and I thank you all for taking the time to comment, because it does really help the video sort of push it along with YouTube, but also it's just nice to interact with the community that we've created on this channel. From Tyler Love. Now Tyler, he comments on lots of things when it comes to this channel, and I do thank you, Tyler, for that. But Tyler said, I've wanted to ask for a while now how you feel having this channel over the years has impacted on your golf. What does the fact it's out there for all to see do to you mentally? Well, actually, Tyler, it's helped massively doing this channel. And the reason I say that is because when I'm out filming, I'm able to experiment a lot. So when I'm kind of competing in events, from event to event to event, there's an outcome, there's a score at the end of it that basically either earns me a bit of money or doesn't. My score is out there to the wider world for people to see kind of how good I am or my abilities. So it's something that does play on your mind. However, with this channel, I've been able to go out in matches under a small amount of pressure or a big amount of pressure because there's a camera watching me and you guys are looking at me down that lens. But there is a small amount of pressure that's not quite to the level of what I'd have, let's say, in a tournament, but it allows me to be able to experiment with shots under a bit of pressure. I then get the confidence from that to then take it to tournaments and then put it into a tournament style kind of pressure. And over the years, right the way from starting working with Mark on his channel, which is obviously a bigger audience, I've just got better and better. You know, you've seen from my ball flight that goes from low to now a little bit higher. Those are all things that I've gone to because of pressure, because of the yips in my game. I've been lucky because I'm not somebody that looks at a camera and goes, oh, there's, 47,000 people potentially going to look at this video. I don't see eyes. A lot of people see eyes at the camera when they look at it. They get a bit anxious about that. I just see a lens, and I kind of, I've become such one with the lens that it's my golfing partner in some ways. Cool. Don't want to miss a fairway around this golf course at the moment. It's thick. Oh, it's come out like a rocket. Oh. So I feel like tip number one is kind of covered when it comes to putting. If you do struggle with the yips or you feel a little bit anxious, just try messing about with a few different types of grips. Make yourself feel a little bit more uncomfortable. That makes you kind of aware of the change of the grip. So you see lots of players go into kind of claw grip, reverse claw, fingers 2 thumb down the actual grip itself, or simply just kind of like what I've done, which is kind of like your left below right, or what I used to call kind of the cack-handed grip. Those little things can break that neuro pathway, make you think about something other than the outcome of the putt, and hopefully you'll feel a little bit more comfortable during your putting stroke. And the next tip that I've got for you, and please don't think I've completely lost the plot here, I have used this many times on lots of different clients that I've coached over the years. This isn't something I made up, this is something that I actually picked up from another coach called Scott Cranfield. I was doing a little course with him, and one of the videos that he created was about this particular tip. Humming. That's right, humming. Humming. Now remember, we're focusing on the outcome here because we're concerned now about what's going to happen to this chip. Am I going to sort of dig the leading edge in and duff it into the ground? Am I going to chip it miles short or miles past? Am I not going to get up and down, which as a good player, let's say a good player like Alex Evans, he would expect himself to get up and down and then be really angry with himself for not getting up and down. Well, you've got to break that mindset of what you're thinking of as the outcome and focus on actually something that's slightly different. Some people struggle with focusing on technique. So let's take technique out of it and focus on our hum, which is kind of like the pitch in our hum. And if that pitch changes at all, you can see there that I've maintained that humming pitch. And when I ask people to do this in my lessons, they'll go and as they hit the ball, their pitch will actually change during that shot. And if you can focus purely on that humming and not the actual shot itself, you're going to start to break that neuro pathway and start thinking about something just slightly different that might give you a little bit more confidence. I'm pretty sure when I actually asked Alex to do this, or for him to try it, I think his words to me, which I probably couldn't repeat, was, Dan, I am a PGA professional. I can't be humming on the golf course. What are my playing partners going to think? And I get it, fully get it. But try humming quietly. Try humming just to yourself slightly. Do it in practice when nobody's around you, and then try and bring it to the golf course. But you've got to focus on that humming action. You cannot focus then on the shot when you get out onto the golf course. You've got to stick with it. Try it. Down in the comments, for those of you that do struggle with this, you can even try it in your putting. I want to hear, does it work for you or does it not work for you? Nailed the tree. So the last little bit is the driver yips. Many of you out there that will be struggling with what we call the driver yips. This is where you struggle to take the club away. This is where you can't square the club face up. I've been there and I've done it. This was something that kind of bled into my game all the way starting from that putting back in the early days at college. And for the last kind of 2 years at college, I pretty much played golf with a 2-iron, and my golf coach used to drive around in the buggy with my 3-wood and my driver in the back of the buggy, trying to get around these 7,000-yard golf courses, banging 2-irons around. I was a big drawer of the ball. I came back after my first year at university and decided that I wanted to be able to move the ball both ways, left to right and right to left, which was something that I struggled with because I was a massive in-to-out swing path guy. Get the club face turning over and just hit those high bombing draws that I used to hit as a 20-year-old. However, came back, decided to work on it on my own with my brother. I think he was involved, he normally is. And I'd be spending hours at the practice ground trying to hit this cut shot. And I was still, the problem with it is I was still coming from the inside and then kind of just turning a little bit harder and holding the face off. That was kind of how I used to hit the shot. I used to pull my arms in a little bit as well, which caused the club face to stay open on the way through. And for a period of time, I would aim left and be able to just hit that, what looked like a soft fade to me was actually probably pretty straight. Well, when you get under then the pressure of going back to college golf, on those tight golf courses out in the States, I didn't really trust it. And the first few rounds of golf I would play out there when you've got kind of out of bounds down the right or water everywhere as you would find on Floridian golf courses, I reverted back to my little draw or big hook that I used to have back then. And that ball never came back anymore. So I went from somebody that hit this nice draw down most fairways with the odd one overturning to then this massive block. And that stuck with me for probably about 5 years. And slowly over time I moved into different drivers which would help me spin the ball a little bit more, maybe just get a little bit more control, feel the club head maybe a little bit more as well. That was helpful for me, and possibly there's a video on that. But I was playing in the Sunningdale foursomes with a very good friend of mine, Damien Mitchell-Moore, and we were playing against Andrew Olcorn and Gary Emerson in the first round. I think we were on the old course and we were already about 5 or 6 down at this point, coming up, I think it's the 10th hole, which works its way up towards one of the best halfway huts in golf. It's my tee shot, and I've stood there, and it's a small dogleg, well, it's not small, it's a big hole, par 4 up the hill, down the hill, then up the hill. And I hit this block. I mean, it nearly hit the marker on the right-hand side of where I was teeing up from, the white marker. And I remember Gary Emerson saying to Andrew Olcorn, "I've never seen a ball go that far right." He said it under his breath, but I heard him. And ever since that moment, I wanted to change it. I changed it, massively changed it. Went to get up down, came over the top of every shot, hit little squeezy cuts the whole time. And that was the yips. That is when you're anxious over the tee shot, you've got to hit driver, and you're anxious over the shot and you pull the trigger and it just goes off the planet. And you never build too much confidence off the back of that. And therefore I had this driving yips from that point. But one of the things that did help me was, and this again is just strange how the brain works, but one of the things that really helped me was when Phil Mickelson used to say that he used to just smile at the ball. It would create a chemical reaction inside you that would make you feel just that little bit nicer, a little bit better over the ball. I tried it. I worked on that sort of get up down swing over the top, squeeze it out there, get it down there, and I managed to change. And ever since that moment on, you may see me on vlogs even just smile at the ball occasionally. If you see that, it's because I've been a little bit anxious over the shot. But it helps me, it relaxes me, it calms me down. Just another little tip for those of you that are struggling with the driver yips. Obviously technical is a big thing, but maybe just maybe give your golf ball a little grin every now and then. So next week's Sunday morning show will be brought to you from Mallorca. I'm heading out to Mallorca with Rory Anderson and also Alex Etches. We're going to get some filming done at Pula Resort, and then we're going to be heading over to Alcanada. So when you're watching this video, I will be at Alcanada watching the grand final of the Challenge Tour. Hope you enjoyed this week, and I'll see you again. I'll see you on the next show. It works. It works every time.